Mummy, do you want to... Remember we went to the Imperial War Museum, must have been about
3 years.
3 years ago. It was the launch of a book called Black Poppies, which was capturing the histories, feelings and emotions of West Indian soldiers that fought in World War One. And that was very interesting that day, wasn't it? Because the room at the Imperial War Museum was full of people really wanting to learn about West Indian soldiers. And then when they found out that you was the daughter of a soldier who fought in World War One, everybody kind of crowded round you and wanted to know
a little bit more.
So why did my grandfather, your father, go to war?
Because he'd been asked at the time there were needed men to fight in the war, and he was one of the brave ones because a lot of them refused.
Right. Yeah.
So he was just at the moment training as a carpenter, and he decided to leave and go to fight in the 1914 war. But they had to leave Grenada to go to Jamaica to enlist the war.
Right.
And there they did some training there, I suppose, and then from Jamaica, they left for England.
So they went to England first, not France, or?
Oh, England or France, one of the, where they were sent. Yeah.
Because I think it was France he went to. Yes. They took them straight.
Yes, it could have been in France because that's where he lost his leg. In France.
So, so I know he enlisted as a soldier.
Yeah.
But was he meant to be on the front line, or did he? What task did he have? I know he was trained as a carpenter. Was he?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because it's not something that he talked. We talk about.
But I know he was a chef in the kitchen. I think
in the kitchen he was helping out there. A lot of that. But then he talked about the trenches. They had to go into the trenches at times. Yeah, and he spoke about the coldness. How you just have to touch your ears or your nose and you would get frostbitten, which he had. And after he lost his leg in France and was taken to Bethnal Green Hospital, that is Cambridge Heath Road in London. And I'd been nursed there for a while. And one Saturday he was telling us about he and his comrades. A few of them, they went to, there's a pub in Liverpool Street. I'm sure that pub is still there, and they had a few drinks and they got a bit booze and walked back to the hospital, and the matron told them off. But he came home with a lot of pictures, with the nurses that look after him during the stay in the hospital. He came home with some pictures, but they got destroyed when we had Janet in
1955. Janet,
Yes, a lot of damage and a lot of things was destroyed. So we lost.
That's the eye of the hurricane went right through Grenada at the time and flattened it, didn't it?
But he used to, then with the leg, every 2 years he used to have a leg from England with a pair of boots they sent for him. And if you need any medical, such as eyes, glasses, or so, they would give that to him. But they had promised so much to do for them after the war, was to give them a lovely home and help with the children and so. But that wasn't to be. He gets a pension. He used to get a pension. I don't know how much it was, but it wasn't quite enough to look after 9 children. So he had to do a little, go back to his carpentry work, and he continued doing that. And he was very proud in, it's like if he didn't tell you he had a false leg, you wouldn't really know. Because it was amputated under the knee. And he was, a sort of very proud man too. He walks and you see the flickering in the knee. If you see when he flick, then he would notice that. But he used to complain a lot of, although the leg was gone, he complained of a lot of pain in that leg.
Those
a
are
sort of
phantom pains, aren't they?
In the night you'll hear him groan, oh the pain. And yes, he told us all about that. But you know, with these things, we were small and never take much heed. It was like Nancy's story. You know, he telling us about it, but you never see or experience. We didn't know. Until I come to England. And I saw the soldiers at the time of Winston Churchill's funeral and so. And I seen all the men in the trenches and the things they had to do. And then I said, oh, this wasn't it wasn't a nightmare or a dream I had. It was real. It was a real thing he was talking about. And I felt so sad. Tears came from my eyes. And to every time with this Mystic Day, I think of him. And when I see the soldiers on the television, the things they have to do, tears come to my eyes. To know how he really worked hard, you know, and had to do so much in this war for the country. Most of the men that went to war in the 48, during that time, the Second World War, and a few of them came back to Grenada, so they get to know that he was in the war, and they have somebody to talk to about what, because they never really talked to the children of what passed, what happened. But he used to drill us enough. The time of I could remember my mother was sick once, had to be in hospital, and there he was doing the cooking, and then he was called number 1, number 2, you know, and you had to drill it, attention, you know. Sometime again he wants you to say, yes, sir.
Yeah.
You know, stand at ease.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And another habit he had again, when he come from work in the evening, he wants to see all the children around. So he'd be calling from Peter on to Percy, the last one. Serena, where is the children? Well, you know, everybody has to stand around.
Yeah.
But he tells the boys never to go and join the English army, because they never do what they say. You can join the American, he says, but don't go back and don't join the English.
Wasn't he dragged out every time a dignitary came to the island?
Yes, so anybody come, he was a very proud man, very proud of, you know, being a soldier.
Fighting in the war.
So he would go and introduce himself to the governor, you know, they come to the country, and explain to them that, you know, he was in the war, and, you know, show them his certificate, his badge and whatnot. Yes, he was very proud, regardless of what, you know, he was very proud that he fought for his country.
But he was always asked to form the parade anyway. I think he met King George, didn't he?
Yes, when he came to Grenada, he shook his hand at the Red House. Yeah.
At what house?
The Red House, courthouse.
The courthouse.
Yeah, it was. He's always, you know, Mr. Pierre, you know.
Yeah, I think, and the judge. I think remember you told me about the judge that lived next door.
Yes, that lived next door. In the afternoon, his rest time, he would call him, and they would talk about, you know, people just like to talk about what happened there. Yeah,
so the judge was very keen to understand his experiences of the war.
And then there was another young schoolmaster. He used to come to and talk, because he was in the war, and they talk about it, you know. So he had a few people that they would talk these things with, you know, what they did and how it, you know, how they had to, you know.
When did he generally tell you the stories about the war?
Well, we was about 8, 9, 10. You
were you being good or bad at the
naughty.
time? I remember you saying that he got you all around the table when you were all naughty to tell you about the truth about the war and
then sometimes my mother has a bad tooth and she would be complaining about pain, and he said, "You know about pain? You know about pain? Then just take the pliers."
Yeah.
It was quite nothing. Different. Yes, it was so different, you know. But as I said, we took that as joke when he was telling us these things. It didn't sink in. It's not until I come to this country and realize and feel the pinch of what he used to go through, with all the frost and bitten, and you know, and I felt a bit of coldness myself when I came here in 1955, and but never to get frostbitten anyway.
How were you corresponding with your father? Were you writing?
By writing, you know, for every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you know. Sometimes I go to my room and cry, you know, not hearing from them. But then after they got telephone, and and things, getting better. And he was able to get a job with the Cable and Wireless because the government at one time they was sending people around to check on the soldiers that during the war, what they were doing, if they had any jobs or anything to do, and there was finding like a work for them to do. So my father was one of the lucky ones that was able to get into working with the Cable and Wireless.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened when he died, pension-wise?
After he died, he was he had the Union Jack on his coffin, and the police, as a respect, how they bury them with the Union Jack covered the coffin, and but his pension was withdrawn. His wife didn't get that pension.
Oh my God!
No, she didn't get that pension. They thought he would have get his pension, while she's alive and so, but she never did get that pension.
So you say that his feeling was that the army, that the English hadn't kept their promises.
No,
in
that's
terms
right.
of because all of you were supposed to get paid education, weren't you?
Yeah.
I think.
No. The army. He always said to us, once you get a good education, you'll be able to get a proper job. You see. So that's what, for the education bit.
Oh, okay.
He has to, so we didn't do too bad. He tried. Yes.
Yeah.
Grenada. When he took sick, I went over to see him and we had a little chat and sort of thing like that. And about 3 weeks after, he died. So I was unable at that time to go back. It wasn't easy. And then I had the little ones, so I wasn't able to go back. To the funeral.
How did you feel about it?
Sad, but at least I'd seen him just shortly and talked to him, and knew that he was going down. And yes, and later on I went back to see him, see the grave, So whenever we go, we pay our respect, and visit the grave. And then my mother died, and we were close to each other.
Yeah, certainly. I've gone as well recently. Well, I go every year actually. Yes. We always go whenever we go. We go and look at his grave because it does say World War veteran across it. And it's got a nice little oil thing, so you can have a flame burning while the oil's there.
Yeah. So as I said, he had no regret of joining. He was always a proud man, proud that he joined, Yes, he was very proud. And a Mystic Day, he's always with his medal and all dressed in his khaki suit.
On Armistice Day,
Yes, and ready to, go to the march, Yes, it's good.
Yeah, we've got, because it's only this photo, isn't it, really? That one with his medals on. Because he was... I looked him up on the web, and he was a corporal, Corporal 13513. So I don't know how he became a corporal.
Yeah.
Somebody else might know how that happens. But he received the Victory Medal and the British War Medal. I think those are the two that he's got on there, isn't it?
Yeah. He always wears his medal. So, after the hurricane and so, I would really would have loved to lay my hand on one of these. But I think my brother, the smallest one, took one to America. And the other one, my nephew had it. And, just probably they never knew the value of these things. And I still hope that one day I put my hand
think we will. Because it will have his name engraved around the side of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yes, so that was the end of his story that I could remember.